Hello, welcome to Cosplay Confessional. We're here to explore the who's, how's and why's of cosplayers and the hobby that they love. I'm your host, Kisasa Cosplay, a cosplayer with 6 years of experience.
And I'm Dave. I'm a cosplay enthusiast who's never done a cosplay, so 0 years for me.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time it is for you guys. Welcome to the latest episode of Cosplay Confessional, episode 7 we're on now. We've got another great guest on for you this episode, so we'll be having a chat with Just Gen Cosplay. Really excited to chat about some of her awesome builds and just get stuck in. Welcome to the show.
Hello. I'm very excited to be here. I've never done podcast before, so yay.
Well, we're honoured to be your first podcast. Okay, so I guess we'll start with like a quickie. So talk to us about your cosplay handle. Where did it come from? How and why are you Just Gen Cosplay?
So it's quite a simple one. My real name is Genevieve, and I have pretty much spent my entire life from very young just telling people to just call me Jen. Everyone always gets it wrong when they see it. Not so much as I've got older, but definitely when I was at school, I know whenever we had a substitute teacher, they'd look at it and I'd have Gwendolyn and Guinevere and you name it, I'd been called it. So before the teacher even got to saying it, just Jen.
That's fine.
Yeah. So when I was looking for a cosplay name, I thought about using my WoW handle and some various other things, and none of them seemed quite right. But we joked about Just Gen Cosplay, and my friend said, "Oh, if you ever become really famous and you start cosplaying with other people, you'll be like Just Gen and somebody else." We're like, yeah. But it's been quite interesting because a lot of people go with like just something. Me and my brother used to watch a lot of Will and Grace, and you've got Just Jack, so we're like Just Gen.
Love it. You say about when you were thinking about the cosplay handle and things like that. So take us back to the beginning then. So when did you start cosplaying and how did you start cosplaying? And just, tell us about the start of that journey for you.
So I have been telling a lie for many years. I have told people that I started cosplaying, or I started my cosplay journey in 2014, which was when I was, for some reason, I played a lot of Borderlands. I love Borderlands. All of them, everything, every single part of it. The franchise is fantastic, and I'm very interested about the movie coming out. We'll see how that goes. So I was Googling. I like Lilith, and for some reason I was Googling it, and I realised there was this picture that wasn't from the game, and it was a girl dressed up, and I was like, "This is so cool!" And this is a thing. People do this. And so I did some research, and in 2014 I bought this. It was about October 2014 to be precise. There you go. I bought a roll of Warbler and started doing research, and in 2015 I started my first build, which was Sylvanas from World of Warcraft.
Okay, so straight in there.
I know.
With the Warbler. I'm like...
it was a 400 to 500 hour build. I wasn't tracking my time back then. I do track time now. Roughly, but at the time I didn't know that was something you did, and I just because bear in mind this is an entirely new process. I hadn't used the sewing machine since school. I'd never used Warbler. I'd never used foam. I used expanding foam for the skulls. Quite old technique, I guess, at this point, where you'd put expanding foam and then you carve it back down. And realised that it wasn't particularly good for quite fine detail, so ended up making them in air drying clay. So the skulls on my Sylvanas, I had to make each one separately. So each one took about 2 hours to make, and there's 6 of them. So you can see why that time just grew on. And because I was learning as I was going, I was doing a lot of I'd watch a tutorial, and then I'd probably watch it about 5 more times. And then I would go and get my Warbler out, and then I'd be like, I'm going to put that down and watch it another 5 times. So it was a really slow process, and it took me 2 years to make that build. But relatively speaking, you go, that's technically my first, what I would call proper cosplay. Mm-hmm. However, I did realise the other day that I actually went to Destination Star Trek London in 2012. Okay. And my friend had bought this the newer films, I say new, they're now old, but yeah, the newer films had been out not long before that, and she'd managed to find these kids dress up, and they like came to just below the boobs and stuff. So my mum helped me chop it up and sew it onto like a jumpsuit, basically. So I looked more like the original Star Trek, and I painted trill spots down my face. So I actually technically did start cosplaying in 2012.
That's definitely counts. That's not even technically, yeah, that is
cosplay.
Admittedly, you've been telling a lie. You are now.
I know.
This is the first actual confession.
I know.
The reveal.
Yes, I mean you could argue that my mum was always willing to help me do whatever I wanted. Like every book day when I was a child, I remember going. I have no idea why, but it was a Spanish dress that she made me, and I took maracas with me and everything. So actually, you know, if you want to kind of go all the way back, I was probably about 5 when I started cosplaying. My friends, through when I was about 16, 17, which is a while ago now. We always used to have these themed parties, so we like picked a letter. So we did a P themed party and I went as a pixie, or a G themed party and I went as a goddess, and those. So actually making costumes, although in those sorts of, they're more like original characters. Yeah. I've actually been making stuff for a lot longer than I realised.
Yeah.
There you go.
So when you were making the first proper cosplay, if you want to call it, so the Sylvana, so in your mind, was that for an event, or was it just, did you go to Comic-Cons back then? Obviously you'd done the Destination Star Trek, but was that something you would already attending, or?
I went to one convention in 2013, which was London Film and Comic-Con Showmasters event.
Yeah,
that's the only event that I knew that existed. I thought that was Comic-Con, and so that's what I was aiming for. The July 2017 LFCC. That was my first cosplay debut. Other than obviously I just said the 2012 Star Trek London, which I have to get you a picture of, because I don't think I've ever put one on. I might have done. I might put it on my Instagram. It'll be old. It will be very old. Yeah. But yes, that was July of 2017, and that I sort of class, I guess, as my first proper cosplay con, and it was insane because took me so long. It took me hours. Like technically it was only an hour from where I lived at the time in Kent into London, but then traffic in London. I was really, really lucky that somebody who lived near-ish me wanted to take their kids, so I basically jumped in the car with them and we went together, and the whole nearly 2 hours that it took us to get there, because crawling in traffic, I'm just blew all over myself trying to get all the paint on. So there's a little if you're thinking about your first cosplay, I genuinely always say pick something that you're passionate about, because it doesn't, like, I hear people say it all the time, do something easy, pick something simple. I don't know, don't do that. Do something you're passionate about, because your passion for that character is what will take you through the at 1 a.m. trying to get everything done, and when you, certainly for me, I will spend at least 6 months making a costume, and that is so I don't crunch. But it's the thing that makes you pick it up again, is the fact that you love it. I also think that certainly for me anyway, learning new skills every single time is fun. So Sylvanas was my first one, and obviously I was working with Warbler. My second costume I did purely out of foam, so that was a new challenge. The next one I did had articulated wings. Then I did Moxie, so that was my first ever proper sewn costume, and then the next one was Valera, where I worked with resin for the first time. Then I did another one that I worked with electronics and smoke machines. So every time I try and add
every single time, it's like something.
This one's 3D modelling. I learnt to 3D model so that I could make this. That was fun. I am very much a hands-on kind of person. I like doing, and I feel my way through stuff. My other half hates it. He's like the 3D modelling god, well, compared to me anyway. And he would, like this, he would have modelled it in a 3D program, and then put it into Pepper Curie and turned it into files and then put it onto foam. Whereas me, I'm just like myself in cling film and duct tape and cutting things out. And I think I drive him a little bit mad, but I do just kind of throw stuff together,
and just see what happens
and hope.
That's definitely my process.
Yeah.
Did you
so I
do an easy build? Is that just never on the cards for you?
So my current build, which is from League of Legends, it is the Fairy Court Prestige Katarina. This was supposed to be my, don't worry about accuracy, I'm not doing it for a competition, I'm doing it for fun. I was doing it as like, we almost had an entire group. The group kind of fallen apart since, which is a lot in cosplay. Just if somebody wants to join a cosplay group, do it, but do it for you, don't do it for other people, because 9 times out of 10 most people,
it's not going to happen.
But I still wanted to make it because but this, I don't know if you can see this up here. I'll try not to knock my beautiful lady over here. This pair of wings has taken me like 100 hours. So this is my easy don't there you go. I don't know how well it that way around. It's pretty, see? Pretty in the light.
God.
But
what are they made of?
So I've promised that I'm going to do a tutorial on these. It's basically, it's like almost like the most traditional type of fairy wing you can have, which is wire, cellophane, and your like sticky back plastic, effectively, and then with foam added to make that more 3D texture. But the reason it looks like this is actually because it's the stuff that you use on toilet windows.
Okay, yeah.
And it particularly looks like it's all sort of pretty and it catches the light.
Yeah.
But that's my easy build.
So the easy 100-hour build.
100 hours just on the wings and
right.
filing that, because I very much wanted. This is like a prototype for those wings. This is like, first time I've done that type of wing. I've made wings before. I've done some fantastic 7-foot wings, which I used to joke. I cut that. They were my social distancing cosplay. That was just as we came out of COVID and we had our first con back, and you had to stay 2 meters apart, and they were pretty much wingtip to wingtip 2 meters. 7'2" wingtip to wingtip, because it's the same as Medhalf's. He's got the Reinhardt hammer, and we realised it was the same. So he could walk in front of me with the hammer that
to block the way.
Yeah, wouldn't hit my wing. Yeah, I want to make some easy costumes, but
do you though?
I go back to that. I pick characters that I'm passionate about, and I guess I'm not
the easy one.
I guess so. So I think next we're watching Has Been Hotel at the moment, and there's quite a few in there.
I've seen quite a few cosplayers from that. I haven't seen it, but it seems to be sweeping the community a bit. I'm seeing so many. Like they do have really cool looks.
For anyone who is looking to do competition, so I judge quite a few now competitions, and I've entered a few myself as well. And this is one of those moments where I'm going to say, when you make a competition build, think about the competition you are entering, in particular, because you can be a fantastic crafter and not win, because a lot of competitions require you to cos and play. So quite a lot of them, things like I'm going to Insomnia in 2 weeks' time. Insomnia, half of your points are from your performance. So you turn up with the bestest crafted thing in the universe, and you cannot move in it, and you can't act in it, and you can't portray your character in it. You're not going to win. Sorry.
Yeah.
But Has Been Hotel has these fantastic singing parts. So I think they lend themselves very well to a cosplay, and you can join in and you can all sing together and I think we're only on episode 6 or 7, I think it is at the moment. But I would say I haven't decided which character. Maybe my next cosplay might be something from that.
And not an easy one.
I don't think any of those are easy. Looking at the characters in there, they obviously, so first of all, animation is always quite difficult to cosplay because they are not human sized.
Yeah, it's not necessarily feasibly, yeah.
The other thing that I will sort of go on that, when I cosplayed my Kale from League of Legends, the big 7-foot wings, and actually Archmage Madeira as well from WoW when I did that one, they've got. I don't have particularly short legs. I'm going to say that. I'm quite lucky that I'm fairly well proportioned, if that makes sense. There was not enough space between my knee and my hip to get that amount of detail on my thigh. So you have to just start like altering costumes to fit you as a person. And I think this is the thing, is that people who make game models don't look at humans most of the time, I think, or something, because and Reinhardt's actually a really good example of that. If you ever were to draw a human inside Reinhardt's armor, it wouldn't work.
Yeah,
it doesn't. He's got to have like shoulders that are like this wide, and
As a former Reinhardt main, I can confess that he's a weird proportioned man. Very good. I enjoyed playing him, but it was weird, wasn't it? But you mentioned something really interesting there for me, which was about the performance aspect. The idea of the play bit of the cosplay. And I think that I've met a lot of cosplayers at different events who are there in the costume, but I guess it's always been one where when I go to a masquerade or a contest or a competition as part of those events and see the performance element, that I'm always a bit not surprised, I guess, but like I never think of it that way. I think of it as it's something that you create and you wear and you're showcasing you love the character, and it's kind of cool. I don't think about the performance side because I don't do it myself. So when I see that actually happen, I'm always a bit like surprised, like, oh yeah, people, that's part of why people will do this, because they want to act out as the character. And that's really interesting. Is that something that do you take that into consideration when you craft a new build, whether or not you would perform as that character, or do you have some that are just the look and the style?
I personally, and I'm try not to offend anyone here, but I think cosplay specifically requires you to play. You have to act, you have to perform, you have to encompass.
Okay. Yeah.
Because crafting, as I call it, if you just want to make something, fine. I kind of see them as I guess two separate.
Okay, yeah.
So I really like crafting. I am not so good at the cosplay part. I am trying to get better. And I actually, when I competed in this, so I competed at a local competition, the UK CDF, one's UK comic and gaming festivals, at my local one, and I won there. By I got them to play Girls Just Want to Have Fun, and I skipped around in my costume, which the judges loved, because like normally you don't see big pieces skipping around on stage, and she's quite a chunky costume, but they loved how I displayed, obviously, Sisters of Battle. Could do sisters doing it for themselves, but that sort of vibe, and they really enjoyed that, and so that's why I won there. But then when I went to all of the winners from all the UK CDFs come together at Exeter, and you can choose, you don't have to, that they invite you all to come and compete and be the grand champion. So I went along, because why not? I'm not that far away from Exeter. It seemed like fun, and I came out on stage and they said, oh, just do some poses. Like, we don't have any music or anything in particular. But I couldn't help myself with just yelling, for the Emperor! And brilliantly, like, there's only like 20 people that come. There were actually Exeter's one of the busier ones. There was more than that. But the people around actually chanting, quite a lot of them chanted back, for the Emperor! And I was like, yay!
They're into it.
So, yeah. And I have done... I don't know if I've even got a video of it anymore. I dressed up as Valera and went on stage, and I choreographed, being a easy one. Yeah, I put together a song to the Let It Go music, which literally had what is it? The snow glows white over Northrend tonight. and so on. So yeah, I sang on stage in, that was at Manchester MCM 20.
Amazing.
So I've sung on stage a few times as well. But I appreciate that for a lot of people that takes a lot of guts.
Yeah.
But I mean, I have to say, from my perspective, the first time putting on that Sylvanas costume and walking through at LFCC at the time, and the first time somebody yelled Sylvanas, and I like wanted to wet myself because it was just the coolest thing ever. As somebody who played WoW since, well, from a long time ago, I played in vanilla, so you know it was before even Battle for Azeroth came out. And in fact, as I sit here now, I've literally got my original. It's very worn. Anyway, any real collectors are gonna. Oh, it's like, but this is from my collector's edition of I can't anyway. So yeah, being in a WoW costume and some of the yelling for me, my WoW character or a WoW character, obviously not mine because she's an NPC, and then proceeded to nerd out about WoW for about 10 minutes, where he just went, I've seen people in all sorts of costumes, I've never seen a Sylvanas before, you've made my weekend, this is so cool. And me just like, oh, everybody knew who I was. Yeah, and I'll talk about WoW with anyone for hours. So I will encompass that character. I keep picking moody characters, unfortunately, which I am not. So I find it very difficult to be like, you know, I am not a tortured banshee who is inhabiting my own body and having, you know, seen the nothingness, and now I'm, burning World Tree, etc. I am probably more likely to skip around and hug people, but I try at least, or encompass them in like photography, or if I was going on stage, obviously. I in fact, I competed in Sylvanas, so, you know, posing and.
But yeah, I think that's a really interesting take on it, because it's not really something like, that's not something I would say I'm good at on the cosplay. Like the crafting, yes, but in terms of embodying the character, well, so I mean, I think I have a tendency to be drawn to characters that are like me, I suppose, to an extent. So in that way, I'm not completely dissimilar to them, but I don't know. I've never gone the full way of being like, I am at this con, I am going to like be this character.
It's fun. I mean, honestly,
well, maybe MCM, maybe Manchester Megacon, Birmingham Megacon. I need to be like, right, all weekend now. I'm just
something that's maybe a fun character, certainly, that you can like skip around, or like something that, you know. I think a really good example of this is the No Face that Adam Savage does, where he talks about he's inside and he starts giving out the gold coins.
Yes, I've seen that video. Yeah,
and I just think that like it really is, to embody the play part of cosplay is really important, because like, don't get me wrong, people don't have to be the character 100% of the time. But I've got a friend who does Buzz Lightyear, and as soon as he goes like this to kids, you know, and their faces light up, and it's just that interaction between you as the cosplayer and the person receiving it. I think it's a weird intimacy that it's just magic. Yeah.
So given that that's like something that's important to you with cosplay, the play side of it, do you think that influences to an extent the characters that you choose to cosplay? Do you think then maybe you choose characters that are more similar to yourself, or would you just be like, no, whatever, and then you would make you know what I mean? If that makes sense.
I keep picking characters.
Do you make it hard for yourself?
I'm not allowed to swear. I should have checked this first.
Well, it's up to Dan later if he wants to edit it out.
I know it enthusiastically, and I'm thinking, do we have swears? I don't actually know.
I don't know. I'm gonna okay. I'll say it in a nice way. They are very grumpy, meanie people that I keep picking, like Sylvanas. And then like I find myself smiling, and I like, nope, I have to stop again now. And like, can't do this. But then sometimes when especially if you're sitting in that character for a while. So I did, for Princess Luna from My Little Pony, which most people kind of go like, it's My Little Pony, what's that? No, I picked the character who literally was banished to the moon because she was overtaken by like, she effectively became like the bad guy. She became Nightmare Moon and is banished, and she comes back after like 100 of years of being on her own in the moon. And obviously she starts having these issues, and the nightmare is starting to come back. And I performed that on stage, and trying to step away from that from it, I almost cried on stage. It's like you embody that moment. I mean, I cry at TV adverts. You know, every year when it comes to the M&S and the John.
Oh no!
So it doesn't take much to make me cry, but that just the poor character. You know, she just wants to be a My Little Pony, right? And be that she's the nighttime and her sister's the sunshine, and they. Not only that, there's like most people like the sunrise, right? Most people when it's nighttime, I've got to go to bed. So she's already got the bad end of the stick.
Yeah.
Then she becomes Nightmare Moon, and everyone hates her and doesn't trust her. And then she's like, "No, it's fine. I'm gonna be good now." And then she starts having these nightmares again. So yeah, I maybe go a bit over the top, but I keep picking characters who are not like me at all. They are very sad. And I guess I like that complexity, and that's probably what draws me to them. But yeah, I do just need to be like Pinkie Pie. Next time I do a My Little Pony, it will be Pinkie Pie, because I am Pinkie Pie. I skip around and I want to plan people's birthdays and have balloons and go heart balloon.
Let me be me. Let me just embody myself.
I know. I'm going to have to do that at some point, because yeah, that's the problem with the badasses in armour, is that a lot of them have seen a lot of stuff and death and loss, and I haven't really got that. That's not very me. Mine's more like, hey, let's sing a song and make a joke. Woo!
I guess the thing with interesting characters, right? There's a lot of very interesting, dark-edged characters, and it's one of like, that's what makes them interesting and compelling, that they have this darkness. But ultimately, if you can't, I'm a generally very positive, optimistic person. I don't have a lot of darkness in me that I'm fully aware of. So yeah, it would be an odd one for me to pick a character that is like wrestling with demons. Like,
you say that though, it allows you to explore these parts of yourself, perhaps in a way that is completely separate from yourself, and in some cases allows you to process maybe emotions that you wouldn't otherwise get to process. And I think sort of one of the reasons I started cosplaying was that I had quite recently come out of an abusive relationship. I was really down on myself. I didn't like who I was. I had no confidence, and I definitely think that when you stand on stage in something like this, you can't help but be like, hey.
I'm a badass.
All of the confidence.
Let's talk about the sister, because she's right there, and I need to know more. Basically, I just need to know. I need to know where did it come from, how long did it take to build, what's it like wearing it. Like, I need the full story on that outfit, because the first image I saw of it, I thought, that's incredible. I need the story here, because I'm a big fan of armor builds, because I find them insanely intimidating. But then when I see a cool one, I'm like, okay, I need to know what's going on.
Okay, so around 250 hours of work. So for this one, like I said, I specifically built this to be a competition build. So there are a lot of techniques in this, and I spent a lot of time on making things perfect. I mean, as good as I could make them. Yeah. So things like pointing out that, like, you know, there is a seam here. You can't see that. I spent a lot of time. I pulled it apart 3 times and re-glued it to make sure you couldn't see that seam, and then sanded it nicely. And then proceed to put all this stuff on it that means that you don't probably really see it anyway. I think my favourite part, funnily enough, is kind of like quite an old school technique. These seals here, which are I remember somebody coming up to me and saying, similarly, I could never make anything like this. It's far too complicated. I wouldn't even know where to start. And I sort of said, well, that's the thing, right? You do need to start. Breaking it down is a skill. I think it is a skill. I think sometimes cosplayers forget that is a skill, and we should give ourselves like a big pat on the back.
Yeah.
But these are literally, I wrote out some bits. So I read, because this is supposed to be scriptures. So I read up on what scriptures might say. What are they supposed to say on them? And there's no definite answer. So I went on to the Sister of Battle. Obviously, don't know. Just for people who don't know, Sister of Battle are from Warhammer 40k. Warhammer 40k has, you get like cards with your pieces and you move them around on the board. So I went and to the cards that sort of come with them, the explanation and stuff, and within it, some of the things that I've taken from them, or I've taken it from things like everyone knows the Emperor protects, those sort of things. So it does say things about the Emperor, or sigils and wards watch over us, prayers shall serve as our guide, we are the Emperor's chosen, and some little skulls that I found. And so anyway, I printed that off on paper, simple as. I did it in sort of a brownish colour rather than black. And then I ripped the sides and I burnt the sides, and then I got tea and yeah. So I think it's just, realistically, people kind of go, oh, they look so cool. It's tea. Come on. Surely you did that.
Surely you did this at school when you were making them message in a bottle. Come on.
Right, yeah.
I genuinely have a real love for some of the older school techniques. I think now that we've got fancy HD foam and Warbler and 3D printers, sometimes people kind of, somebody the other day asked a question about something and I just went, paper mache, right? Just get some paper, rip it up and stick it over the top. And they were like, that's genius.
Yeah.
I'm like, it's not genius, it's old school. Like, I think people get really excited, and don't get me wrong, I absolutely, new technology is fantastic. Let's incorporate them and embrace them and understand them. And obviously from a competition point of view, make sure that they are correctly policed. So that, that I've seen people who perhaps they'd printed things off and then hadn't credited the person whose model they were, and all those sorts of things. But anyway, but also all these old techniques are fantastic. Yeah. So these, quite often rivets, you see people use googly eyes.
Googly eyes, yeah.
I don't personally like that because two things is, number one is because they're sort of quite like plastic. These can become indented.
I was yeah.
The other thing is that you rattle. Mm-hmm. And I have ADHD, and that comes with sensory processing moments and stuff. And if I was rattling constantly, I would get very angry very quickly. So these are actually 3D modeled, and these are one of the easiest things that anybody could ever do, because you literally take a ball and cut it, and then you just make it the size you want on your printing slicing printing program. You can obviously change the size on your print bed, and that's it. There you go. And so you've just added 3D modeling, because loosely speaking, you've done some 3D modeling because you've gone, hey, drag and drop this ball, cut it. So you can say, like, I learned this technique, I modeled, I sliced, I've printed it, and then dependent on whether you're printing with these are resin in particular, because resin gives a nicer finish for small details. So yeah, and also I was able to print 2 different sizes. So if we look like on the back here, these are slightly smaller ones. So again, it's exactly the same model, just printed at 2 different sizes. I decided to try my hand at hand embroidery.
So that's she's so cute.
This I got one on each side. Each of these took me 8 hours. I've never done hand embroidery before. I keep saying, I always like to learn new techniques and stuff, and this is my little thing. And I did beading once when I realised that I picked up a lot of skills over the years, because I've always been a crafty nerd. And my mum used to take me to beading, so I had some beads up in the loft. So I put little beads in them too, and I think they kind of catch the light, and it's pretty. Yeah. I like them. But yeah, I want to, at some point, I'm going to do some embroidery on. So just so you know, the technical term for this is the crotch flap.
Yep, right.
I don't know if that is a technical term. That is what I have deemed it. That's what I tell everybody. And so it is now, this is the crotch flap. And I want to embroider basically all of that at some point. Because this is technically a work in progress still. I'm going to keep adding to it. She hasn't got the thigh pieces, so I'm going to add that. She is going to eventually be a seraphim, so I'm going to add wings to her. She's going to have the halo bit and some So this is going to be a labour of love for many, many years to come. This is kind of the initial version. But you've got some bits of like warbler around here. Most of this is foam clay. I also have Reynolds, which means that I can't sand for long periods of time. So one of my things with this was learning to use foam clay a little bit better. So this and this are foam clay.
Okay.
So that I didn't have to Dremel, because for something like that, you'd normally probably spend quite a few hours Dremeling. And I can't do that anymore. When I first started, I could. Now I cannot. I get half an hour in, and if I go too long, my hands will go red and numb, and then I can't use them for hours afterwards, which is kind of annoying. So yeah, this was, I cut out a piece of foam, and then I took foam clay, and I like each one. This took so long. So each one of these bits I kind of had to do separately, so I could let it dry before I then moved on to the next bit. As I said, 3D modeling. I 3D modeled this skull. This is the first proper thing I ever 3D modeled is this skull. And that I did it in ZBrush, just if anyone wants to know. More just in the same way that every type of, like, foam has a place, warbler has a place, and I do think they are slightly different, and fabric has a place. There are different 3D modeling technologies, and I do think they have very different uses. Like if you want to make organic shapes, ZBrush is really easy, and especially because I have a graphics tablet as well. I was just using the graphics tablet as if I had a ball of clay. So intuitive. It was really lovely. Whereas these are 3D modeled in Fusion 360. No, 3D Max. No, Fusion. These ones are Fusion, which is a nightmare, and I'm never ever going to use that program again, and I'm never ever going to make Floodly ever again. But both these models are then used again here and here, and the skull is also then wrapped around to make the knees as well. So reusing things. This is actually just kind of like decoupage almost.
Okay.
So it's like just layered 2mm foam. I just cut each bit up out of 2mm foam and layered it up, which I think is a really nice and fairly cheap. In fact, that is literally like the fun foam you buy for a kid fun foam. So you don't necessarily have to have really fancy foams to achieve things with either. And then a bit of bias binding, this is the first time I ever actually bothered to line anything because I knew it was for competition. What else? That's kind of it, I think, really. I don't need to tell you too much more, otherwise I could spend hours talking about her. But yeah, I love her. She's my pride and joy.
I have a confession, is that I still don't actually know what Warbler is.
It is a thermoplastic, so it's literally plastic and wood shavings put together, and then you heat it, you bend it into the shape you want it to be, and when it cools, it will stay in that shape. I
could have Googled that, but I thought, I'm on the show, I will ask someone who actually knows. I've never actually asked the question. I've always just nodded and gone, oh, Warbler, of course. Yeah. So,
in fact, this is kind of what it looks like. This is what it looks like. So you get different types of warbler as well. So this is your standard warbler. You can get black warbler, which is there's much lower wood chip dust in it, so it's a lot smoother. You can get white warbler, which is like pearly, and clear warbler, which I've used before, which is a pain in the butt to use. And I would highly recommend when, I've dunked tea since I was old enough to hold a cup. So I keep joking, I have asbestos fingers. I can pick things up that are really hot. So do be careful with warbler because it gets hot and it'll stay hot for a while. I can handle normal warbler and even black warbler. Clear warbler is like touching molten lava. Don't do it. Be careful. I mean, you should be careful with all of them. I will always advocate for safety, but yeah, do be careful with clear warbler. It's horrid.
So this is probably a hard question. Do you have a favorite technique or skill? Like, it sounds like every single outfit you make, you learn something new, but is there anything in particular that you like? Yeah, I learned this thing and this is I love this is really cool. Or
I don't know if it counts as much. My favorite part is painting. I really enjoy the painting part of it, and honestly I genuinely believe that an airbrush will uplift anybody's final product. So you can be the best foam maker or sewist or whatever. If you don't do your painting well, it won't look good. And I've seen people take nice, possibly kind of trashy foam builds, paint them really well, and they look fantastic because it's masked by that. So I do genuinely believe that even investing in quite a cheap, and I say cheap, my first ever compressor was like £50 and the airbrush was £10. And so I wouldn't skimp out too much on the compressor, but the airbrush, any airbrush, will up your ability to paint. And I'm going to point out on this in particular, if you are painting something that is black, you cannot shade black, obviously, because it's already as dark as you can make it. Taking an airbrush with a slightly lighter grey and going through all the middle gives you that definition. It makes something just feel more alive in 3D. And I also advocate for airbrushing your fabric. So as an example of my Mercy cosplay, that is she's the Dr. Ziegler Mercy. She's literally just got a white lab coat on. So going in with just a little bit of airbrushing around the pockets and around the lapels, where she would, like, if you think about it thematically and in person, touching stuff gets dirty around pockets and stuff. So airbrushing a lot of your fabric stuff. In fact, this is airbrushed around here, gives it just a little bit more definition. So that is airbrush fabric, airbrush everything, airbrush your face. No, don't do that.
And a point of order, the Dr. Ziegler Mercy skin is my personal favorite and the one that I always used when I played Mercy.
Me too. So me and my other half, we cosplay. I do Dr. Ziegler and he does Reinhardt. He's the Paragon skin Reinhardt. That's me. When I don't play as Reinhardt, I am the Dr. Ziegler Mercy. And so if we already have a tank and a healer, I have no idea what to do, and I try Ash. That's about it, and I fail miserably. So yeah.
I love trying with Ash. I say trying, never succeeding with Ash, but hey, which is fun.
Yeah. We have joked a few times that I should cosplay, and then Tom could do Bob. If I can just run around yelling, "Bob, do something!" Which obviously, again, cosplay, right? You got to shout if you don't know the lines. I did quite a few with the Mercy, and I had to learn some of them, and I've probably forgotten more. But it's like, do you need healing? It was the doctor is in the house. So yeah, that's another thing. If you are going to cosplay, I would genuinely recommend like doing just a little bit of research, and that you probably know already, but just double checking some of the lines and stuff, because you can have a fantastic interaction with somebody just by doing a line. I made somebody cry in my Mercy because she literally came over and was just like, "Yeah, you're me." And I was like, okay. Yeah. It was lovely. It's so rewarding, and I love it. I cannot get over enough. I will always empower, encourage, hype anybody to cosplay something you love, because it's just there's nothing like it. We are all nerds, and we enjoy nerding out about our thing. And it might be that you come across somebody who doesn't have the ability, the funds, or just didn't even know what cosplay was, and then they see you, and you have just brought their special interest to life. And it's just there's nothing like it.
That's huge. That reminds me of a fair few Comic-Cons ago when I encountered the voice actors for Tracer, Mercy, and Brigitte at one event, and I was in the panel where they were discussing it, and I asked them the question, sort of like, what's it like when you're signing autographs and doing that kind of thing, and you're meeting people who are wearing your character, and they had a similar answer to what you said there, which is like seeing someone's kind of favorite thing brought to life, and they get to interact with you, and you voice that character, you brought that character to life in a way as well, is a really quite special moment people can have. And I think that from what I've seen from people cosplaying, and when I've seen those moments where someone's like, "Oh my god, you're my favorite character from this thing ever," it's really quite it's wonderful to see, because I think that you see, like you said, the passion people have for these characters and for the process as well.
Yeah.
and it lifts people up in a way that few other things I've seen do. Which
And I've made some of my best friends from cosplay. My best friend, who I literally walked up to because she was in a WoW cosplay, and I was like, "You're my friend now." And as two neurospicy people who have spent most of their lives going like, "That person's far too cool to be my friend," or me actively saying that out loud to them have made them allow themselves to go, "Oh, I received this. Yes, we're friends." And we both knew at that moment that we were friends. And it was, yeah. I met my other half through cosplay. He was judging at a competition and I was at it. And that's how we met, and we were friends. And then, more eventually. So
brings people together. I first met Kisasa because she was dressed as Kaylee Fry from Firefly, and I was like, I got to speak to this person because that outfit's amazing.
Yeah, I have seen
it too. Podcast years later.
Yeah,
I mean, we've said it in a lot of our episodes now, but I do fully agree. I think it's such an equalizer. Is cosplay like you are straight away basically saying to somebody, I have this interest, like. It's like an invite for approach, really. Oh, that's the way I feel. Like, I've never really met an unwelcoming cosplayer. Do you know what I mean? It's not a hobby to get into if you're not going to appreciate that kind of interaction. So, I instantly know you've got something in common with that person. Yeah,
definitely. The only other thing I can liken it to is like if you see somebody with a tattoo of like, if they've got a critical role tattoo, you walk up and you be like, critical role.
Yeah.
Like you're gonna you already have that thing in common.
Yeah.
And I doubt very much you'd have it tattooed. Something might put around like
if you're gonna have it as a tattoo.
Yeah, right. I remember meeting somebody who had a Magic the Gathering tattoo. He has 5 of them. He had the 5 basic elements. I only saw the one. I was a bit like, oh, did he play red? And then he was like, he held up all the other ones. So he's like, he had one on each hand, one on each. What's that bit called? Calf.
Mm-hmm.
He did have the 5th one. I still don't know where it was.
We can dig off somewhere, but
a mystery element.
Yeah.
Well, it's a safety, right? Like it's a safety. Like if someone is going to the effort to dress up as a character from something, that there's the safety there. If I can talk to that person about this thing, because there's no way they'd be wearing this costume if they didn't care about it and want to share that with people. I've never met anybody who's contradicted that. It's always been like, if someone is there dressed as, in a full Reinhardt build, then they probably are happy to talk about Overwatch, right? Like it's safe to make that assumption. And I think that's a really nice introduction for people to have that comfortable moment. So
and I also think there's definitely a higher proportion of neurospicy people in the cosplay community. One of the things I really like about the cosplay community is that I think it opens us to more diverse people in general.
Mm-hmm.
Like I know, as an example, at the trans debate that is going on, raging now, it's not even a thing in the cosplay community anymore. We are so far past that. Calling people they, and I've been doing that for 10 years now, right? Yeah. And this idea of like, I am not sure what my identity is. I'm going to put on a costume and try this identity on. I guess lends itself to that. But it's that expression, right? And I love the fact that, certainly in my day job, which is very boring auditor, that I come across very normal people, and I just think, wow, we're just so far beyond it, and so much more, I think, accepting and embracing. And I love that about the community, that like 99% of people in the community are fantastic, and I just cannot rave enough about the wonderful people in cosplay.
I agree. I absolutely agree. It is a thing where I think that it's a naturally diverse area. Like just by default, people are dressed as heroes and fey creatures and wizards and aliens and whatever you want. Like there's the whole world is open to you with that. And I think that, yeah, the very nature of it means that people can be whoever they want to be. And that lends itself very well to them as people and the people around them accepting that just by default, which I think is a wonderfully positive part of that community for sure.
We're getting deep, guys.
And you get better than that. I feel like we've peaked right there.
I know. I'm just like, I know we're only 60 minutes in. That's it. That's the message. Okay, right. I'm going to bring it back down because just, you know, basics. What is your dream cosplay that you've not done yet? What is like? You have an Everest.
I have a really weird. So it must have been. I think it was 2019 when Blizzard released their first video from Diablo 4 with Lilith, and she comes down from like the ceiling, and she's got this cape which is basically blood and sort of forms into skin, and she's pretty much naked, but you can see through her. She's got like, you can see her heart beating inside her. That is that's right. That's what I've always had this vision in my head of, like, that would be incredible.
Okay, I mean, I definitely don't feel like I've seen that one, so no. I'm very intrigued to see that. I don't know what you need to learn for that cosplay. Yeah.
Back on the show when you've made that, please, because I want to see that.
No. I don't think that's ever going to be something that's makeable. I've seen, actually, interestingly, some people who've done Karlach, who've done sort of the beating heart on by like airbrushing chests and obviously then overlaying stuff over it. And potentially there's something similar that could be done, like doing an undersuit, airbrushing it to look naked, and then putting some prosthetics on. I think the problem is that she is genuinely naked. It would definitely not be something that I think would be allowed at conventions. So maybe, yeah, it's a really weird one, and it's sort of been in my head for that entire time. As maybe I'll just do Lilith normally, and there's been quite a few people who've done it really well. And actually quite a few of them have released the references so that you can you know, can buy them and you can use them, and it makes the job a lot easier, right, if you can take somebody else's patterns. I've only done that a couple of times. In fact, Valera's one that I was a Kinpatsu pattern, actually. But it speeds up building costumes so much. So I think sometimes people go like, oh, is it worth it? Depends on your shape and your size, and like, cause some things you can alter and some things you can't, but it definitely helps for me. The few patterns that I have bought, or tutorials that I've bought, they really helped me to understand other people's technique, their process, how they approach something, how they break it down. And I think certainly as a baby new cosplayer, it is helpful to buy a few, so like maybe one from Kinpatsu, one from Kamui, and one from I've sounded like Tiffany Gordon, you know, these sort of different people, and trying out different people's ways of doing it. Because I found that I tried one of Kamui's horn patterns for, I should have had it here. I did some little horns to go on top of a headdress, and I could not get the pieces to go together. I got really angry with it, and another half ended up taking it off of me and just going, oh, because she sort of says, oh, do this degree cut. So I did it, and he's like, this is more about, so for me, when I made horns, the only time I've made horns before was I took tin foil, rolled it into a buck, they call it, and then covered it in foam clay. There you go, horn, right? And this is why I say I very much like throwing stuff together. So that pattern didn't work for me, but for him, he looked at it and went, yeah, I get this. This is exactly how I do things. Yeah. So I do recommend trying different patterns from different people, because it helps you, and even if you don't end up using it, you learn stuff.
Teach you something, yeah.
So like Kinpatsu did a build book for her Sister of Battle, which I bought, and I read, and I kind of did use it as like a guide. Like, she doesn't have, there's no patterns with it. It's not quite as helpful as that. But it did make me go, there were some bits that she did that I didn't like the way she did them for me. They work for her, they don't work for me. And so it did sort of help to inform how I went about some of it. And there's certain, like, I think you get to know fabrics that you like. So I really like working with scuba. If I need a stretch fabric, I'll get scuba. I find it really easy to work with. I think it's got a lot of give because it's got a stretch in it. If I make it a little too tight, it doesn't matter. If it's a little baggy, doesn't matter too much either. And I really like this. This is a faux suede, and I really like. I used the same fabric for my Valera, and it has a real nice hang to it and a consistency. I don't know. It's heavier than a lot of other fabrics. I like that. But yeah, people. I've completely forgotten what the question was, but hey, yeah, different fabric. They work differently. Yeah, there you go. Covering it in blood as well. This is. I've got to tell you this now, whilst I remember that. Like 4 days before Cos Expo last year, 2022, last Cos Expo. I got some fake blood out of the cupboard that I've had for a little while, and I started chucking fake blood on it, thinking, yes, we're doing this. And 2 days later, so 2 days before con, on my 250-hour build, the blood had still not stopped, like streaking down. And ended up, and this is a very, very good learning for people. Test stuff. If you're using stuff you've not used before, test it on somewhere that like you don't see it. Anyway, I had to wipe all of the blood off. Because it just would not, whatever, I guess I could use seal prime to prime it. It wouldn't go in. So that's why, like, it went into the paper, lovely, and dripped down everywhere. But no, it wouldn't go on here, so I had to wipe it off. I was literally like flicking it on. So I had to wipe it all off, and then it took. So this is an oil-based gilding wax, because I like using oil-based gilding waxes for metallic colours. I think it makes it look really good and they pop a lot. Although I know that's not, like, you have to give it time. Oil takes a long time to dry. It took basically everywhere that the blood had touched any paint, pretty much, it took the paint off.
Oh god.
I had to wipe it all off, repaint it all, and then there were still some bits that in a way it was good because it gave me some nice trails and stuff, which I then went over with just acrylic paint to touch up and what have you. But it got what a beautiful this blob up here, because it was like kind of wet, so it's got a great, like, it looks like I've been starring some baddies. But yeah, there's a for anybody, if you're trying something new, try it on, like, because I could easily have just tried it like under here or something.
Oh, bless you.
I didn't. And this, just for anybody who wants a little sneaky tip, this is clips like you get on a backpack, and here, so the clips take all of the weight, and then just a little bit of Velcro keeps it from moving. But even if all of the Velcro came loose, those little clips would keep it in place.
So how are the clips attached to it? Just like contact adhesive, or?
There's a piece of webbing, and it's stuck onto the inside. So again, that's pressure against me, because obviously this is against my skin. So the between me and the foam is keeping it. But then I use a little bit of hot glue. So saying, like, everything has a use, and those uses can be different. So I think for a lot of people, they forget sometimes that newbies don't know that you should, generally speaking, use contact adhesive with foam. Because funny enough, I was watching quite a few of Kamui's tutorials. You realise she doesn't actually say what kind of glue she uses a lot of the time, and people ask in the comments over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And you sort of think, oh yeah, because you don't, like, when you've been doing it for this number of years, you forget. But hot glue does have its uses, so I wouldn't use hot glue as the main seam. You can. I'm not saying you cannot do it. However, on a very hot day, like in May MCM, when you have the sun beating down, we have the 30-degree temperatures like we did last year, your hot glue goes and you flash everybody. Which my friend did.
Oh, yeah.
We like to call them the battle bikinis. You know how you have like, certainly like WoW, where they literally have like armor bikinis.
Yeah.
Battle bikinis. Yeah, your hot glue good. Yeah. So I would generally, but hot glue is really good for the edges of if you're putting Velcro on, go around it with hot glue, and it just keeps those edges from coming up. This does look better on me. This is a different size to me, just so you know. Just because I feel like this is my competition piece. Show you the back, of like her, they line up properly. It's because she's different. She's not my size.
Okay, Dave. Anything burning?
I just want to keep asking questions about the Sister Battle, but you've covered that. It's fantastic. I just love it. I want to ask how much it weighs. I don't know if that's important.
Not a lot.
I feel like no,
not a lot. So
that's the glory of foam, right? It looks really heavy. It looks like it'd be a pain to wear all day.
This is 5mm foam. So I basically make a circle out of 5mm foam, which I did with cardboard boxes. So for anybody who wants to make something like this, I find making stuff out of card first. We're going to make a bad noise now. Okay. I should have done this at the beginning. Look, yeah. There you go. It weighs practically nothing. So the breastplate, when you are building something that weighs or potentially can weigh a lot, I always try and rest it on like the shoulders first, because you want to keep away from putting too much like strain on your back. And you think you generally in everyday life you wear like backpacks, or even if you've got a handbag that you wear over your shoulder. So we actually our shoulders are a lot more used to taking weight than other things. I can never take this off, otherwise I'm going to end up. And also, generally when you start planning any kind of piece, if you make your chest piece first and then size everything else from it, your chest piece is probably the piece that you have least ability to make a different size, especially for women. Like women, half the time you're like half naked and you just have, like I said, battle bikini. Something like this, when you're fully armed, does have a bit more give. Like you can change your shape a bit more, you can pad it out, etc. If you wanted to, give yourself, certainly if you wanted to give yourself a proper hourglass figure and give yourself like big shoulders and big hips and come in really like in the waist or something, you could do that with something like this much more easily. But once you've got this proportioned, okay, go touch the boobs like her. Then everything else you can get to be the right proportion off of that. So that is probably my number one tip for big armor. Make your breastplate first, whatever that is, and then figure out, because you generally will strap everything to it as well. So this works out really easily, because I can, even whilst I'm wearing it, quite easily take this off, and then it will sit this way. Like that, sat on any table, and I can drink. I can touch my own face. I cannot touch my face with it on. That's probably my biggest issue in this, is that I actually have a bad back, and I don't have a huge amount of movement in my torso with it on. I can sit in this costume, and I can like scratch my nose. But if I wanted to drink, it is really difficult, because I end up basically pushing this up. So making something so that I could easily just take that bit off, so I could drink, because you'll sweat in something like this. Just another, if you've never worn a big foam armor before, you will sweat. So sometimes people go like, you turn up in your battle bikini in winter and they go, aren't you cold? You're like, actually, no, I am basically thermal, sweating a little bit. Yeah. So, yeah, definitely. Foam is very insulating. So just beware of that, and make sure you plan to be able to drink, because you will sweat. Please don't faint. Yeah.
Well, stay hydrated, people. Stay hydrated.
Yeah. We're all about the safety.
Yeah, I know. It's good. Yeah, I as somebody who's approaching 40 now, I am realizing that I'm in some cases old enough to be cosplayers' mums, and jokingly for a while now have been called con mum, and as long as it comes with a mummy, sorry, I'm happy for you to call me con mummy. Con mummy. Or con daddy, but yeah, you start to realize that, like, I see the kids running around and they've got 3 different changes of costumes. They go out to the hotel room, they just like, I can't do this, and they don't eat and they don't drink properly, and I'm there like, look after yourselves, because it's not It's not
worth
good for
it.
anyone. You need to eat, you need to drink, you need to sit down, and you need to pee. So yeah.
As someone in that same age bracket, I barely change the outfits I wear normally, let alone like multiple costume builds. That's crazy talk.
Yeah. The one good thing, I guess, about such large builds is that, relatively speaking, I can't take more than 1 or 2 along to convention with me. We tend to drive because Reinhardt doesn't travel well. It's big. I don't really have that option. But I do, in certainly, like I've mentioned, like I've had a bad back and various other things that a lot of cons now are very aware of people's disabilities, and they have worked really hard to put together spaces for them. And I will say that MCM in particular have done a lot of work in recent years to have like reset rooms, quiet spaces, places you could probably go and get changed. The Cosplay Central at MCM and Costume and Play, who are at Insomnia and various other events as well, they both, if you just go and ask them, can I leave my armour here for a minute because I need to go and eat, so you need to take it off, message them before the event just to double check, especially like if you've got a giant, like I've got a friend who's got a massive 9-foot Terminator big Space Marine. So his actually, it can all stack up and stand on it. So if he's got space to put it, he can leave it there. But in the majority of cases, if you're talking about I'm going to faint, I need to take this stuff off, they will accommodate you, and they're really good at looking after people, or even just finding somebody there that will help you. Most people, like we talked about how great the cosplay community is. If you are on your own at a con, because occasionally it happens, and you cannot feed or drink or etc. yourself, do feel free to find somebody else in a cosplay. They will probably have a cosplay handler with them. Tom walks around in his big Reinhardt. One of the reasons I did Dr. Ziegler Mercy is because it's basically just clothes with the wings. So I can fully, if I need to, I can help him take it off, help him get into it, give him drinks, etc. In the same way that if somebody said, I can't reach my face, could you scratch my nose for me? I've done it countless times. So do go and make a new friend and ask somebody to scratch your nose for me.
Touch my face, it's fine.
Yeah.
Nose a cop.
Yeah. You form very, very quick bonds as cosplayers, because I just remembered the first time I ever met Tom. He's in his costume. Basically, part of it has to be like safety pinned onto him. And basically safety pin it onto his bum. So I'm like, hello, cosplayer, who has like at the time 10,000 followers, was like to be like, oh my god, this guy's amazing.
Blowing your mind,
Like the first time I meet him properly, he's like, could you just like safety pin this to me? I'm like, where? Just like just above my pocket, like your bum.
You mean?
Okay, hi. So nice to meet you. And I have in the past I had electronics which were basically kind of in my pants. So then I got to my friend to just be like, could you I just need you to put your hand in my pants for me. So yeah, you do definitely you find ways around making costumes work. And
where to go for sudden intense friendships. That's where you get them.
Yeah. Obviously, be careful at cons and don't go around asking random people to stick their hands out on your butt stuff. Do be careful. However,
drink, stay hydrated. Don't ask strangers to put their hands in your pants. That's just, we don't do that. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. That should be the tagline of this.
Well, to be fair, towards the end, we usually ask for like top tips. So I feel like this is an interesting selection. Yeah,
I have a million top tips. But yeah, definitely make friends. Hands in pants. There you go. You can't top that.
Hands in pants.
Yeah, hands in pants. Oh dear, this just reminds me of the other day when I'm at work and the head of my department, we're going to a meeting in May, and he was trying to come up with a name for it, and I just blurt out, it's a meeting in May, let's call it a mating.
Now, may or not, maybe no.
he just looks. Jen, I'm not inviting everyone to Bristol for a mating. It came out of my mouth. They said it.
It was a bold choice. It was a bold choice.
Yeah. No, I just.
You know, for a second I was there with you when you were telling it. I was like, yeah. And you know, then no.
Yeah.
I do. Yeah, at work they had this thing where I used to work. I worked with the same people for like 5 years, and they just had this term which was it's gen appropriate, which was like I would say something completely inappropriate, but I hadn't meant to.
Yeah.
You know, you used to have to like just take it in and out, put it in and out really quickly. You're I don't know. So, you know, apparently the way I say sticky made them laugh every time, and that we'd go down to make a cup of tea in the little staff room, and the side was sticky, and I was like I just need to wash my hands because they're sticky, and apparently that was the most hilarious thing I'd ever said. You know, you're being gen appropriate again. I was like, but I'm sticky. Like, how is that? Like, I just want to wash my hands.
Who needs a filter? Who needs a filter?
Yeah.
Like, just say it. Say what's happening. It's fair. I like it.
Right. Yeah. So, and I'm sure I quite enjoy doing panels on stage. I enjoy giving knowledge. So yeah, I will. If anyone does have any questions for me that I haven't answered in particular, please do message me. Reach out. I love giving the knowledge. Take it. But yeah, I'm sure I have said things on stage that I shouldn't do a few times as well. And certainly at the MCMs, the compere of the cosplay stage he knows now, and he's I think he occasionally just stops me before I go too far. He's like, stop talking now, Jen. I know what's about to come out of your mouth. Like, what? How did you know? I don't even know. So yeah.
Oh.
Amazing.
Well, if you want mildly inappropriate comments or tips on your cosplays, you know where to go. Just Gen Cosplay.
Yeah, I know, right? What to be known for. There you go.
Helpful yet sometimes inappropriate.
Yeah.
I'll take it. That's more useful than a lot of people. So
yeah, right. Oh dear. And then I go bright red. So
I think I'm all out of questions.
I feel like we've had a good run. I feel like we're on a good time, and yeah.
You're not going to have me back. You're not, oh, why did we invite her?
No, honestly, amazing. Like,
these are things people need to know. These are all things everyone needs to know. These things, and I think that some of the points on there about like the idea of learning new things, the idea of what the community means, like these are all things that everyone experiences a little bit differently. But there is a real common thread, I think, and you know, I reference this, you know, every episode that I am not a cosplayer, just a fan. But every time I meet someone new, it feels like there's this thread of the community is important for this reason. And the reason isn't always the same, but there's always a reason. And the learning part, the idea of doing cosplay because you like being in costume is a key part, obviously, but also that doing cosplays because you like to learn new things or new ways to do stuff. That's something that's again, very consistent, which is really nice to see. And maybe it's a key indicator of why I don't cosplay, because I got no room for learning. So no patience.
You don't cosplay yet.
Exactly. We keep being. This is the aim of the series. Cosplay.
One day.
You will. It's like I guess a moth to flame. You'll talk to these people and you'll see the passion, and you'll start to go, I could do that. And this is like the thing of a crafter in general, right? You see something, you're like, I could do that.
So looking for that thing. I'm looking for the thing that I see and go, I can do that. Because so far, most of it's been, no.
You could do so much more than you think you could.
Yeah. I genuinely enjoy, one of the things I actually do like about TikTok is the closet cosplay, the ability to like I did Morticia Adams, because I already had like a black wig and I had a black dress and I had a corset, and you know, it's very easy to sort of throw something together, and because you're only, you know, sort of showing this much of yourself, etc. I genuinely think it helps with that sort of closet cosplay type, and the escapade down the slippery slope that is, now I'm going to maybe buy a costume, and now I'm going to spend 2 years researching, building, and then I'm going to enter into a competition.
I can see my future, and it's like half an armor build, and then my 5-year-old wandering into the room and just crashing into it and destroying it. So that's what's...
They are a lot more sturdy than you'd think. And Tom actually, both. But Tom made a costume for his 5-year-old, so that's the other thing you could go for. He did a little corn berserker. His 5-year-old at the time.
Oh yeah, just something simple. Just something simple.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And yeah, he at the time, obviously, yeah, he's now 12 today. So he is now slightly less cool to be a cosplayer, I think. But a few years ago, he did Junkrat.
It's awesome again.
That's it.
Yeah, yeah. He did Junkrat, and it was brilliant. And he got up on stage, and he's there yelling and going, "If at first you don't succeed, blowing up again," and running around, and it's like I genuinely think it's so magical. And if you haven't done it yet, you will. And the more people you talk to in the community, I think you will. It's infectious, and we are everyone is everyone's hype man. So you go like, I've got this idea of like, I want to do this costume, and people will just enable you. We are all enablers. We're like, do it, try it, have a go. If you have to commission part of it, or if you have to, one of the things I said actually on stage, we did a disability panel, funnily enough, and I talked about just wearing what you can. You don't have to wear a full armour. Like I could wear, in particular, like Sister of Battle, I could probably wear the little bolero, a black corset, and this, and people would still know what I was.
Yeah,
because of iconic shapes. So I generally say wear what you can, try it out, and also because you can test stuff. You could spend hundreds of or thousands of pounds on bits, and when you put it all together, it doesn't work because you never wore the first bit you got. So do it. Do the thing.
For me and for everyone.
Enabling.
So,
we are all enablers. Join us.
Well, thank you so much for joining us on the show. I love getting the different perspectives. I love to hear how what this means to everyone, because it's that thing of it means something a little bit different to everybody, and that's always so fascinating. So, yeah, thank you so much. Just Gen Cosplays. Go check him out. Everyone go and like the Sister of Battle costume, because I've talked about it. That's all I talk about the whole time.
Like all.
It feels a disservice because you've got the incredible Moxie costume on there as well, and a number of other like fantastic. And I was like, show me the armor. Let me talk about the armor.
And then it was there, and you were like, oh my god.
I mean, to be fair, pretty most of mine are armor. So only a couple that I have done that aren't Moxie, and I guess Ari. I did the Spirit Blossom Ari Ultimate, which was not. Other than that, pretty much all of them are some kind of armor. Oh, actually, I recently I did. I made a Bridgerton dress. Yeah, to go.
You did.
I did. Yeah. But yeah, actually, I have done a few more sewing ones. Oh, they did. I actually went to a secret cinema.
Oh, amazing!
And that's why
we go to that.
It was fantastic.
It looked amazing.
Talk about play part. So you go in your dress, and then you go to a ball, right?
Yeah. Very cool.
Yeah. Very jealous of that.
Well, we will go and we will think longingly about what it could be like in a Victorian setting. I think I could see that. That's a cosplay I could do, I think. I think I could pull off one of those outfits. That would work.
Steampunk?
Yeah, I could see you in steampunk. With like a hat with the top part, with the cogs and the monocle.
Yeah. We can work it out. We'll work it out for a future episode, for sure.
You heard that here, everybody. He's agreed. He's cosplaying now.
Yeah.
One day.
Yeah.
We'll take him down.
We'll get there. No, I say thank you so much for joining us. I've had a lot of fun. We could carry on. I don't want to stop us, but I feel like I should at some point. But I know
I feel like Dan will shout at us if we go for too much on.
Let's keep going on. Sorry, Dan.
It's been amazing.
Yeah, thank you so much. If you've got questions, if you've got anything else that's come up in the episode you want to talk about, please drop us a message. If you are interested in being on the show, you can just do the comments and all that good stuff. Like, use that stuff. It's all there. Get my DMs. Let's go. Let's talk about it. If you've got questions, Just Gen Cosplays. She's volunteered her services to answer all of your cosplay questions forever.
It's her DMs forever.
Yep, forever. Yep. But thanks so much. It's been an amazing episode. Thanks, Just Gen.
Thank you for chatting. And it's been amazing.
Bye.
See you next time, guys.
And with the big wave.
Hey.
Cosplay Confessional is part of the Nod Network and produced by Studio 30,000.